You're gonna be late.
I'm not gonna.
I'm late for my show!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Ifft.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Irvine, for coming out. Anybody here in QAnon? Anybody? Damn it, I keep trying to join. Nobody will let me in. No, that's a shitty cult. That is the worst cult. If you learn about cults, cults are all about sex, you know? You join the cult and everybody's fucking. QAnon, they're just like solving riddles. That's a terrible cult. I'm an expert on cults. I grew up 25 years, I was in a cult. I grew up Catholic. I guess some of you haven't left the cult yet. Yeah, it's a weird place. I also grew up running track, which, look at me, it doesn't look like it. I was a sprinter, and people always don't believe me. I'm like, I swear I was. And they're like, oh, come on, how are you so fast? I was like, I was an altar boy. Yeah, I knew you were here. I knew you guys were here. It's a weird religion, let's face it. Let's face it. I just went to a Catholic funeral. Weirdest shit in the world. Can we as a society get together and just start cremating everyone? Because this whole like stuffing the body and putting it in a bed, and you go in the funeral home, which is basically a haunted house. That's all it is. You go in and the owner's always some guy like Lurch from the Addams Family who comes down, he's like, you rang, and you're like, oh. And they live in a house with dead bodies all the time. And then they're like, and you get there to the funeral and everybody's like, all right, go over and why don't you go kneel in front of Aunt Susie and say a prayer? And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And they're like, why not? I'm like, because she's dead, you know? And they're like, yeah, just go kneel in front of her. You're like, oh God, please. You're kneeling there and you're like, please don't move. Don't let her move. I'm always afraid the body's just gonna go, and I'm gonna be like, fuck, and then I'm gonna shit my pants. And I only own one suit. I would love to work at a funeral home. I would love to get a job there. I'd only work one day, because what I would do is spring load the body. I would spring load it, so in the middle of the funeral, it just sits up, and everybody just goes running out of the church like, ah! And I film it and get 2 million likes on TikTok. I went to a funeral, I had to go home recently for one, and it was where I grew up, and it was all my friends, because we lost one of our friends, and it was the first time we had lost a friend, and it was weird, because as a comedian, my job is all about releasing tension. There's tension, I release it, and I don't enjoy tension, so I try to release tension, and a funeral is all tension, and I'm there, and I was a pallbearer, where you carry the casket up the aisle, and that was my job. Me and all my buddies that I grew up with, and we're carrying one of our best friends, and we all have tears in our eyes. I've never seen my friends cry. And I'm sitting there like we're all crying. And we're walking, and I was like, oh my God, like I hate this. This is not right. This is my job to alleviate this tension. I am supposed to release this tension, and I didn't know what to do. And so I just, as I was walking, I saw the priest walked out onto the altar, so I just whispered. I just went, that's the one that molested me. Boom, we dropped the casket. Tension, release. My friend told me she wants a sky burial. Do you know what this is? A sky burial, the Tibetans do it and some Native American Indians. They basically just like take the body and leave it out in the woods and let the animals eat it. Yeah, ooh is right. That is gross. And I said, that's disgusting because then you end up being animal shit. And she goes, it's not disgusting, it's beautiful because shit is fertilizer. And then you fertilize the ground and you make grass and you make trees and then oxygen comes from you. So your life creates more life. And I was like, yeah, sounds beautiful, but I don't think you've ever seen animals eat something. They don't clean their plate. They kind of scavenge over it and it takes a while. And I'm afraid we do that with my dad. And then like a week later, I look out in the backyard and I'm like, shit, Dad's still out there. Oh my God, he's like a head, a kneecap. Is that a scrotum? Oh God, can we hire a coyote or something? Somebody put some barbecue sauce on Dad. Oh, a vulture, oh. Oh, not very environmental, is it? I don't want to talk about the environment. I want to talk about guns. No, I'm not against guns. I'm not for guns. I don't own a gun. I pepper sprayed myself twice. I'm not against them, though. I think guns are necessary for protection, but the people that buy them for fun, I think that's a little weird. People are like, I love guns. They're so much fun. I'm like, you've never shot off fireworks then. Because guns, you shoot it, it's a bang, yay. Fireworks, they go in the air. They make a bigger bang, colors come out, and people applaud. When's the last time you shot your gun that people are like, I love that? Usually, you shoot a gun, people jump in a bathtub and go, we're gonna die. The only fun gun out there, and I'm gonna tell you what the most fun gun there is, a paintball gun. Yeah, it's the best gun in the world. You know why? Real gun, you're probably never gonna shoot anybody. Paintball gun, if you're like me, you're gonna shoot everybody, not only on the other team, but if you're like me, you're gonna shoot everybody on your own team, which is twice as fun because they don't know where it's coming from. They're facing the other way and you're pegging them in the back of the head. I cannot control myself. When they put a paintball gun in my hand, even when they yell go, I just turn around and shoot my whole team. I'm like, bang, 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 bang. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm a serial killer. I can't help this. I was at a bachelor party. The groom was on my team playing paintball. And he said to me, hey, can you lay some cover fire? I want to get to a better position. And I was like, I got you, man. I got you. And then, as I was laying cover fire, he happened to run in front of me. And I had a clear shot. And I couldn't help it. Bam, I shot him right in the throat. Yeah, right in the throat. Yeah, At the wedding, 6 weeks later, he walks down the aisle, purple goiter, just hanging off of his neck. It was like a tumor just coming out. The entire church was laughing. Yeah, if that was a real gun, no wedding. No, I'm not very environmental. I know this is Orange County and everything, but I see a lot of Teslas. Yeah, it's weird. I won't drive a Tesla. I will not. I know you're like, they're the greatest car in the world. I refuse to drive a Tesla. You know why? Because I forget to charge my phone sometimes. And you people with your Teslas, I don't know how you do it. I can't imagine calling into work and being like, sorry, I can't come to work. I forgot to charge my car last night. I was upstairs, it was downstairs. I didn't have a USB cord. My God, I forget to charge my phone sometimes. My happiness is completely in relation to how much battery life I have on my phone. Anybody else? You like that? Like, I will sit and watch my phone battery dwindle, and I'm like, oh, no. Oh, I'll be at a party. It'll go below 10%. I'm like, fuck, I got to get out of here. Everybody's like, where are you going? I'm like, I got to leave. I can't be here right now. And they're like, why not? I'm like, because if I go home and this thing dies on the way home, I don't know how to get home anymore. I really don't. I do not know my wife's phone number. I have an Apple Watch. You have to charge it every 2 days. I forget to charge it all the time. So 90% of the time, it's not a watch, it's a bracelet. And people will come up to me like, hey, you know what time it is? And I look like an asshole. Because I'm like, no. I'm convinced if you took me a half hour from where I live, dropped me off without my phone, come back 5 years later, I'd have a whole new family. I think that's what homeless people are. I think homeless people just went somewhere and their battery died and they're like, fuck it. I guess this is it. There's no payphones anywhere. It's great talking about the homeless in California because the homeless were smart and they left Minneapolis and North Dakota and they're like, fuck this. 20 below zero sucks. I'm gonna go to California where, I don't know if you know this, but the temperature of your house is usually between 68 and 72 is the temperature that people set their house at because it's perfect. Well, that's what God did to California. And homeless people are smart. And they're like, fuck this. I'm gonna go get some beachfront property. And that's what they do. Rich people go and buy the best, biggest houses right on the beach because they can afford it. And they're like, look, I worked my whole life to get this. And then some homeless guy walks right in front of it, takes a dump, and goes, ocean view. Yeah. They're pretty, like, you ever go to Venice Beach? They're just like, they're people that went camping, tried meth, and then kept camping. I lived there for a while. I used to watch these guys. I watched two homeless guys get in a fight once. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. One guy goes to the other guy, yo, where's my damn beer? And the other guy goes, what do I look like, Google Maps? And I was like, that's pretty funny. How does he know about Google Maps, though? And then the one guy, it started to get heated between the two of them. I see the guy go to grab a gun out of his back, and I'm like, oh shit, there's gonna be a gunfight. And so I have to watch. And the guy pulls out, not a gun, but he pulls out like a gun, an air horn. And he's holding an air horn, and I'm like, this guy's insane. He doesn't realize that that's an air horn. No, he does. He does. He's the smartest man I've ever seen. He says his side of the argument, and then when the other guy goes to retort back, he just goes, Arr! And I was like, oh my God, the level of genius of this man. He could beat the Harvard debate team in a debate. This guy, you cannot beat this. Why is this guy homeless? He should be president of the United States. He could go talk to Putin and be like, Arr, arr. Kim Jong-un. Arr. Oh my God. If you're married and you fight a lot, you need to get one of these. Get yourself a homeless person with an air horn. You got to keep them in your garage because they're stinky. And when your wife yells at you because you didn't take the garbage cans down to the street, you're like, get her, Stinky. And he comes in. Arr! I love a good air horn. I really do. I almost went to jail for an air horn once. I rented a beach house in New Jersey with a bunch of friends once, and we were there during the summer, and during the weekdays, I was there with my buddy who was a teacher because he was off for the summer, and I'm like, look at me. And it was 3 a.m, and we were drinking, and we would call our friends that had real jobs. And they'd be like, hello? And we'd be like, what are you doing? And they're like, sleeping. What are you doing? And we'd go, ah. And it was hilarious until the police showed up in my house. They came straight in the house without a warrant, and they came in, and they were like, Arr! And I was like, hey, what are you doing? You need a warrant or probable cause. And the cop just grabbed the air horn out of my hand, turned around and blew it in my face. He went, Arr! He goes, that's probable cause right there. He goes, you woke up the entire island. He goes, every house on this island called the police station. We thought the biggest party in the world was going on here. and it's just you two weirdos. We don't know what's going on. We don't want to know what's going on. But they wrote us up for noise violations and civil disobedience and all this stuff. And I kept arguing with the police. I was like, you're in my house. This is unconstitutional. This is my air horn. They were like, first of all, these air horns are for recreational boating usage only. I was like, all right. So the cops left. 2 minutes later, I hear my friend Mike out in the backyard. I hear him. And I go, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm blowing up a raft. This is a true story. The two of us got in one of those tiny little inflatable dinghies and rowed out into the middle of the bay and sat there looking at each other with air horns just going, The police flew a chopper over us, put a spotlight on. I am a child. My wife gives me so much shit for being irresponsible. And she's like, you're so irresponsible. And I go, duh, where do you think I get my material? And she goes, yeah, it's got to stop. And I'm like, well, then you'll be poor. Like, I need to be this way. I've lost all my friends that are irresponsible because they all grew up and, like, got responsible. So you know what I did? I made two really irresponsible people. I made children. I needed friends that bad, I made kids. That's why I had kids. It's not a good reason. But I'm a parent. Is that scary to any? Look at me. I look like a guy that just had his skateboard stolen. And I'm way too old to chase the guy that took it. Look at the way I dress. You know what's sad? My wife dresses me. My wife dresses me, and she's such a cock blocker. I'm pretty sure that's why she does it. She's like, here, wear this. Nobody will want to fuck you. She dresses me the same as my 2-year-old. She does. I have 2 kids. One of them I like. And I have a boy and I have a girl. And if anyone wants to have that gender neutrality argument with me, just come over to my house. You know, this idea that gender is merely a construct, that we're all born with sex organs, but our gender is fluid and you can, like, choose your gender because society imposes your gender on you and that we're genderless. Yeah, come to my house. Meet my kids, because I didn't assign a gender to them. My daughter is a girl, but she is very feminine. She is pretty. She likes pink. She's compassionate. She's nice. She's sensitive. My son, if you put a rock in his hand, he'll hit you in the fucking face with it. If he finds poo anywhere, he will smear it all over you. He's a horrible human being. He is. I have nightmares because of my son. I can't sleep at night. My wife's like, you gotta get to sleep. And I'm like, he's in the other room. He's 2. He has a black eye right now. We don't know how he got it. My wife thinks I did it. I think she did it. We both think he deserves it. This kid, the other day, I heard a sound that I hope you never hear in your entire life. It was the sound of a garden hose getting dragged across a hardwood floor. Now, you've never heard that sound because garden hoses are outside of the house. But I heard this noise. It was a very distinct noise that got me off the couch. I was like, what the fuck? What is that? And I see him standing in the living room, 2 years old, with the gun on the end of the hose, just looking around, just like casing the whole living room. And I'm giggling because I'm like, he's 2. He doesn't know how to turn the spigot on outside. Oh, fuck, he doesn't. Oh, my God. He hosed down our living room like he was a firefighter at the World Trade Center on 9/11. He shot the bookshelf, the big screen TV, the suede couch, and as soon as I said stop, He shot me in the fucking face. Yeah, and he had it turned to jet. It was on sprinkle, and he turned to jet, shot me right in the face. Yeah, and I read a lot of books on parenting. I try to be a good parent. No book tells you what to do in this situation. Nowhere does it say, no, all this new age parenting bullshit that's out there right now is the stuff that made millennials. And I follow it, I don't know why. My wife's like, this is the way we gotta do it. And the books all say, no aggression, no violence, don't raise your voice. When your child's acting naughty, you have to distract them. You have to distract them. My kids flooding my entire living room. And I'm supposed to distract him? And I don't know what to do. I had no idea how to distract him, so I got my paintball gun. And I shot him right in the chest. Yeah, you gotta hit them harder than they hit you. My wife's always like, you gotta run him down. I'm like, he's not a dog. But he's so hyperactive. He's so hyperactive that like we can't handle it. And everybody likes to let me know that it's genetic. They're like, oh, I wonder why he's like that. It's genetic, you know? And I'm like, yeah, thanks. It's gotten to the point now where he's so hyper, I wish that some other man had sex with my wife to make my child. I'm not lying to you. I really wish that my wife was impregnated by a man that was way smarter than me and more immobile. I wish my wife fucked Stephen Hawking. That's a weird fantasy to have, but I figure she wouldn't have liked it. No. She always wants me to take him out. We live in the most dangerous part of Los Angeles. We live in Malibu. And don't laugh. I don't live down by the beach where there's like $60 million mansions. I live up in the canyons where it's more like Malibama. Like, have you ever gone up in these canyons? There's scary shit up there. There's rattlesnakes and coyotes and mountain lions. And my wife's always like, take them up the hills and run them. And I'm like, there's mountain lions up there. And she's like, exactly. Mountain lions are terrifying. I encountered one on a trail one day. Like, I had a face-to-face with a mountain lion, and I read somewhere that it said, if you run into a mountain lion, you can't run away. You can't turn around. You got to face them and look big. Look big to intimidate the mountain lion. So here I am coming up the trail, all of a sudden mountain lion, and I just went. And I swear to God, the mountain lion giggled and then turned around and walked away. It was like, that's some soft meat. I'm not eating that shit. It also says if you encounter a mountain lion and your child is with you, that you're supposed to put your child on your shoulders to look even bigger. Yeah. But I did the math and figured out that if I get on my child's shoulders, same. My daughter, though, I love both my children. I do. I love them, but my daughter is just, she's hilarious. I hope that's genetic. I hope she got that from me. She's so funny. The other day we were surfing, and my daughter, we're getting undressed after surfing. She takes her wetsuit off and just strips it naked in the parking lot. She's standing there completely naked. And I'm like, don't do that. And she's like, why not? And I didn't know how to have this conversation. I'm like, can I FaceTime your mom? Like, I don't want to have this conversation. She's like, why? Why can't I? And I went, because there's creepy men. And she's like, what? And I'm like, you know your dad's friend George? I was showing her how you can take your wetsuit off and put your shorts on underneath a towel. And so I'm doing that. And she just like watches me do it and she goes, why? Why are you doing that? I go, so I don't expose myself to all these people around here. And she goes, oh, because you don't want them to see your little penis. And I had the worst response ever. I just looked at her, I go, it's not little. And she goes, it's not what Mom said. She's smart. My daughter went to, during COVID, my daughter went to online school. I don't know how many of you had kids that went to online school, but the whole idea of kids going to school is so that you don't have to be there. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible, because the teacher sometime would ask for me to help, and it was the worst. I would hear my daughter, she would be at school with all the other kids on the screen, and I would hear the teacher go, Izzy, go get your father. And I'd be like, fuck. Because I'd have to get out of bed and take my pajamas off really quickly and put clothes on and act like I'd been doing something. And I would sit down next to her, and then it was kindergarten. I would do like coloring online. And one day I'm like helping my daughter, and the teacher starts yelling at me because I'm not doing it right. She's like, you're not doing it right. I'm like, it's a turkey, it's brown, I did it. She's like, no, Mr. Ifft, you didn't color in the whole thing. I'm like, look, I colored. She goes, yeah, but you didn't color to the curve. Have you ever heard of this, coloring to the curve? Yeah, well, apparently I don't do it right, because the teacher kept going. I was like, yeah, let's just move on. She's like, no, you didn't do it right, Mr. Ifft. And I was like, look, it's a turkey, it's fucking brat. And then I realized I just cursed in front of a whole entire class of children, and I didn't know what to do, so I just moved off the screen. And then I went around the front of the laptop, and I just clamshelled it shut. And then I called the school, and I was like, sorry, Wi-Fi went down. Yeah, and by the way, my identical twin brother's staying with us right now, and he has Tourette's syndrome. I love my wife. We went to marriage therapy during the pandemic. Did anybody else try that? Yeah, my wife told me that we should do it. It would be fun. And I was like, what? She goes, all my friends are doing it with their husbands. Let's do it. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And she's like, come on, what else are we going to do? And I was like, you're right. So we went to therapy online, and it didn't go well. Here's why. Our therapist was kind of like Judge Judy. And what I mean is, I don't know if you've ever watched Judge Judy, but she's not very fair. Like, she listens to the plaintiff, and the plaintiff talks forever. And then she listens to them, and then when the defendant goes to talk, she's like, you shut the fuck up! I was the defendant. Like, she asked my wife what her issues were and everything. My wife pulled out a spreadsheet. She had like flow charts. She was like, and then this happens, then he says this. And I was like, where did this come from? I didn't know any of these. And she's like, this is why we're here. And she told her whole thing, and then the therapist goes, now, Eddie, what do you have to say? What are your problems? And I was like, I don't have anything. And she's like, you don't have any problem? I was like, no. She's like, there's nothing? And I'm like, no. She's like, there's nothing you want. And I was like, no, I'll take a blowjob. Which I thought was funny. And then she goes, you're a pedantic child. And I went, fuck you. And then I moved off the screen. I went around the front of the laptop, and I clamshelled it shut, and I canceled my credit card. I will never do this, but I fantasize about divorcing my wife. And I think everybody, when I say that, what I'm saying is I think we all, like, if you've been married for any amount of time, you think, what would it be like if I wasn't? Like, what? And it's not like, oh, I want to get divorced. It's like, what would I do? How would I live? And I don't, like, go as far as, like, get on Tinder and be like, I'd be with her. I don't do that. I don't go on Tinder. I go on Zillow. I I go on Zillow and I look at houses and I'm like, where would I live? What would my house be like? I know it'd be cooler than what I live in now. You know, I wouldn't have as much money, so I'd buy something like a tree house, you know, something like that, or I'd live in like an old airplane or something, you know, like a boat, you know, like there'd be something cool. Because that's, you know, when you see those places, you're like, that's fucking cool. I wish I could live there, but I can't because I have a wife. Because wives are sensible and logical. Like if you guys didn't exist, we'd all live in cool shit. Like I'd have a tree house with a fire pole, you know, that I slide. Look, guys are shaking their heads. Yeah, we'd all live in that shit. But because there are women that have brains, we're like, let's live in this tree house. They're like, yeah, and who's gonna take the groceries up the ladder? All right, I guess it's the ranch house. Let's talk politics. No, I'm not political at all. I'm not. I don't give a shit. I think politics is like WWE. It is wrestling to me, and so I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative. I swear, I just watch it for entertainment purposes. And people are like, do you vote? I'm like, of course I vote. And they're like, well, who do you vote for? I'm like, the funniest fucker out there. I don't vote with my conscience, I vote with my pocketbook. And I need comedy because I gotta write material. And so I know this is California, a lot of liberals out there. I'm sorry, but Donald Trump, the most entertaining fucker that has ever lived. And even if you hate him, you know you woke up every day going, hope he says some dumb shit today. And he did, by 11 a.m. every day. And that's when he woke up. And now we have Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah. And it's not very funny. It's, I don't know if you know this, but 4 years ago, Joe Biden died. Yeah, Joe Biden died. And they stuffed him and made an animatronic robot out of him that's controlled by Elon Musk. Bring back good again, corn pop. I find it funny when Republicans try to shit on Biden to Democrats like they care. Like, it's hilarious. They're like, oh, you and your Biden. Like, any Democrat voted for Joe Biden. Like, every Democrat voted against Donald Trump. Like, to the point where if my dick ran against Donald Trump, my dick would be president right now. Like, if you went into the polling booth and it said, Donald Trump, Eddie Ift's dick, and you had to pull the lever, wait, if my dick was in there and you had to pull my dick to vote against Donald Trump, I would have come on every Democrat. I don't know how you can care that much when it's so out of your control. Like the people that went on January 6th, the insurrection, like you flew to Washington, D.C.? Like to go to a rally? Fuck that. Like, I just don't have the time or energy for anything like that. I don't care how much it is. Like, I'm like, yeah, I gotta wake up. Like, I'm not doing that shit. And they gotta stop calling the insurgency. And they need to call it what it looked like. And that's a Black Friday at Walmart. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's how Trump got them in there. He's like, hey, there's a bunch of Xboxes in there. If you piss on Nancy Pelosi's desk, you can get an Xbox. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was upset about it. I was upset that they went in there. You know why? Because we spend $3 trillion a year on defense. $3 trillion a year to defend this country. And in 8 minutes, the Duck Dynasty took over our Capitol building. 8 minutes, those guys were running our country. Yeah, and we joke about it, but they were in charge. They were in the Senate chamber. Our senators were hiding under desks like, oh, we're gonna die. And there's a guy with a Grand Poobah hat and his face painted like he was at a Buffalo Bills tailgate party, who was wielding the mallet, the gavel at the Senate chamber. He's got it. That's where you pass a law. This guy was in, and we stopped him. And that is where we made a mistake in this country. Because we love entertainment. And that could have been the most entertaining 2 weeks of our entire life if we let those guys run the government. They would have quit in 2 weeks because deer season was coming up. But just imagine the laws they would have passed. When that gavel came flying down, holy shit. Oh my, their main thing, they wanted to reinstate Trump. You know, they wanted to get Trump. But I don't think they would have done it. Once he found out the power he wielded with that gavel, I don't think Trump would have got it. I think they would have been like, so you want to make Trump president? You can do it. You want to make Trump president? He'd be like, fuck it. Hulk Hogan. Bang! Any other laws? Camouflage, formal wear. Bang, bang! HOV lanes for monster trucks only. Yeehaw! Bang, bang, bang! Anything else? You can fuck your sister anywhere! Bang, 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 bang! As humans, I really, really don't know how we exist. Like, I think if I was the first human, we wouldn't exist. I think we would have ended. Because kids are too hard. They're way too hard to raise. Like, did you know that when a giraffe has a baby, the giraffe comes out and gets up and walks away? Did anybody know? I just found this out. That a giraffe baby plops out of the mother and goes, and then walks away. And we talk about monkeys and dolphins. That is the smartest species in the world because they don't have to raise their kids. Their kids just get up and they're like, see ya. Humans, we have a baby. The baby comes out of the mother and goes, wah, 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 and shits itself and pukes and and like screams like, help me, I'm dying. And then you have to raise it for 18 years. And then finally, you push it out of the house. And 4 years later, it comes back. And it's like, help me, I'm dying. I'm telling you, if I was the first human, my wife or sex slave would have had her baby. And it would have come out, and I would have known about the giraffe. So I'd look at this thing, I'd be like, oh, this doesn't work. And I would have thrown it in a river. Yeah, and then 9 months later, she would have had another one because I'm blowing loads. And the baby would have come out. I'd been like, another dud. And I would have just chucked it in the river. Yeah, every 9 months, this would be a ritual. I'd be like, oh, I'd be shot putting them in. I'd be skipping them across the water. But then finally, eventually, the way evolution works is she would have had a baby, and I would have gone to get it, and the baby would have got up and run away and been like, look, this shit works. Look at this. Look at these go. Would have been river dancing like, you can't get me. I'm okay. Yeah. And so this isn't a joke. This is a lesson I'm trying to teach. I am. What I'm saying is, we need to take the millennials and chuck them in a river. And then shoot them with a paintball gun. I should stop this. I gotta stop shitting on millennials because we made them. It's always like, what's the shittiest generation? Oh, the one that makes the shittier one after it. Like, we did this by having like books that tell you to distract. No, but the millennials are making the Gen Z, which is work. This This is I hate being that old man that's like, you guys, back in my day. But like this pronoun bullshit where you can't do you know what I'm talking about? The misgendering? I'm so afraid of misgendering one of them that I don't say just misgender. I say misgender and Mr. Gender. Now, my friend's a school teacher. She told me they all do this identification thing where they say right away that I'm a he, him, a she, her, or a them, they. I understand he, him, she, her. I didn't know what a them, they was, but I learned a them, they is somebody that can identify as a she, her, but also as a he, him. I was like, they could be both. It goes, it depends on how they feel. It's just how they see themselves. And I was like, okay. So I go, I'm like looking at all the kids. I go, that's a he, him. She's like, yeah. I go, that's a she, her. She goes, I go, that's a he, him too. I go, that's a she, her. She goes, yeah. I go, that's a he, him. She goes, no, that's a them, they. And I go, then who's that? She goes, no, who's on first? I go, what's that? She goes, what's on second? And I go, I don't know what any of this is. She goes, third base. I don't care about bathrooms and everybody's like, I don't want a penis in my bathroom if it's not in. Like when North Carolina tried to ban transgenders in the bath, I'm like, what do you care about? All these old men making these laws like, when I'm in a bathroom and I'm standing at the urinal and I got my dick out and I'm pissing and I look beside me, I want to see another dick. I don't want any vaginas in there. I just want dick on my right, dick on my left, dick, 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 dick. I want cocks everywhere around me. I want to be in a room full of cocks everywhere. No vagina, no vaginas in my bathroom. And so the people talk, like, I don't care if there's co-ed bathrooms. I don't give a shit. I hate when the bathrooms, or label them properly. Like when it's like men's and women's, I like that. Or if it's just everyone, I like that. What I don't like is when they put symbols on the doors, like usually when I have to take a piss, I gotta go. And I get to the bathroom and it's like, oh my God, am I the circle, the plus, or am I the arrow that looks like a penis? Which one fucking am I? Or sometimes they do them in you go in and it's like they get creative. And you're like, am I the penguin on the skateboard with the pirate hat on? Or am I the centaur rollerblading? I don't know which one I am. I went to one in Australia. I show up to go to the bathroom, and it says penises, vaginas. So I was like, thank God. I know which one I am. And I was about to go in, and then I thought about it. Wait a minute. I'm a man. And there's a room full of vaginas. Like, that just says, like, this is the vagina room. And I was like, I'm going in. In fact, I called all my friends. I'm like, you gotta get down here. Like, where are you? I'm like, I just found the vagina room we've all been looking through. We are living in some politically incorrect times, which people say to me, isn't it hard to do comedy? And I'm like, no, this is the best time ever to do comedy because it's so much fun offending people. It's incredible. The only thing that offends me are comedians that get offended by people getting offended. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe they got offended. I'm like, that's our job. That's what I do. I say the shit you can't say because you have a real job. Like, what are they gonna do? Cancel me from Yuck Yucks next week? Like, I'm literally at a place called Yuck Yucks next week. If I got canceled, I'd be like, ooh, you got me. And that's why I just make fun of everyone except for a couple people. You know, Dave Chappelle, his whole special, he talks about transgenders, and I do not talk about transgenders. I refuse to, because I'm more afraid of them than the mafia, because they will have you canceled. And look, I have no problem with transgenders. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think if you want to change your sex and be someone else or see yourself as someone, hey, life is short and life is hard and life is difficult. Whatever you want to do to make you happy, I am for it. And I don't think there should be anyone persecuting you or against you or trying to prevent you from doing that. Seriously. And people that think it's weird, it's not weird, whatever. If they want to, people get fake boobs and inject their lips. If someone wants to cut their dick off, let them do it. That's their life. That's their dick. That's not your dick. Why do you care about it? And if somebody wants to be called something or seen as something, I don't give a shit if you see yourself as a man, a woman, a goat. I don't give a fuck. If I had a friend that was like, I see myself as macaroni salad, I'd be like, get in the bowl, bitch. And people would come over my house, and they're like, who's that? I'm like, that's macaroni salad. No, I think they should have the freedom to do whatever they want. But I also think that I should be allowed the same freedom to make fun of anyone for what they do, because I do make fun of everyone and anything. And I did get canceled once. I got canceled. I used to do a lot on K-Rock, on the radio here in California. And on the Kevin and Bean show. And one time, I love those guys. And one time I was on there and I happened to say the word tranny. And it's a bad word, apparently. And I didn't know. I didn't get the memo that week. And all this language and that you can say this and you can't say that. I will abide by it. I just don't know it sometimes. And so it was a mistake. But they got really mad and wanted me canceled. They wrote a letter to the radio station. They wrote a letter. They hand wrote. When's the last time you wrote shit? I tried to sign a check last week, and my hand cramped. I was like, I think I have carpal tunnel syndrome. I can't, I don't work these muscles anymore. They wrote a letter, and they were mad that I said tranny. They said, this is their letter. They said, the comic on the radio called us trannies, and that is a slur because it is an abbreviation and it minimalizes who we are, and what we represent. And they said, Eddie, we can't have you on the radio anymore because, this was wrong. You shouldn't have said this. And I said, I didn't know. They said, well, you better do something. So I wrote a letter back. And I was like, I typed it. I was like, dear trannies. I said, I am just a comedian, and you called me a comic. And that is a slur because it's an abbreviation. And we are a fine group of individuals. Like Bill Cosby. I went to his last taping of his last comedy special. We got invited, a whole bunch of comedians. They did it like they thought it'd be nice to have all these comedians there. This is before he got in trouble. And they sat us all up front at his show. I didn't want to sit there. I like to sit in the back, talk shit, laugh, watch. I have no attention span. And they sat me right in the front. And you know how awkward it is. Look at me. I'm looking right at you. It's very uncomfortable, isn't it? Yeah. Look at this, right here. I had that with Cosby. That was so weird. And he does like a 3-hour-long show. And I have no attention span whatsoever. And I was falling asleep during it. And he knew a bunch of us. And I was like, oh, shit, he's going to catch me falling asleep. And I'm going to get yelled at and scolded. And so it was like I was driving a car. And I was like, So the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like smacking myself to stay awake during his whole show. And now I realize he drugged me. Do you think when Bill Cosby was in prison and he got raped, the guy who did it went, hey, hey, hey? I can only hope. true story. I almost quit comedy 15 years ago. I was in like the prime of my career. I had a sitcom in development. They were going to make a big show about me. I had a hot girlfriend, and I had lots of money. And they canceled the sitcom, and I lost all my money, and my girlfriend left me because she's a whore. Yeah, she was a whore. And nobody in Hollywood would return my calls. I was so cold. No one wanted anything to do with me. And I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. And so I moved to England to do stand-up comedy, because that's what you do. I moved to England, and I thought, I'll get a new start over there. And hopefully my stink isn't on me over there. So I moved to England, and they put a whole tour up for me. My first night, I'm in Birmingham, England, at the Glee Club. And I go on stage, and I got booed off stage. Yeah, my first night there, I got booed off stage, and I didn't know what to do. I go back to my hotel room, and I had a mental breakdown. I literally broke down. I cried. I was sitting there weeping. I couldn't get the TV to work. I just wanted to get my mind off it. Sitting in this hotel room, eating shitty British food, and I didn't know what to do. I picked up a newspaper, and I started reading, trying to get my mind off it, and there was an article about 9/11. And it was talking about some of the victims of 9/11. And I was thinking, well, okay, I don't have it so bad. These people lost their lives. And they interviewed some of the people that were related to the victims. And there was a guy in there that lost his wife in one of the plane crashes. And they went to a comedy club the night before she died. And he said she had tears coming down her face. She was laughing so hard. And he said he was just so happy that he has that memory of her. And I was like, wow, like comedy, it's so important. I didn't realize that. And then I kept reading. He mentioned the comedy club they went to. And I was like, wow, that's a club in New York that I play all the time. So I pulled out my Palm Pilot. This is 15 years ago. I get the stylus out. And I checked through my date book, and I saw that I played all 3 shows of that club that night. Wow. And I don't know if... thank you. But I'm not a religious person in the least bit, but I was like, wow, this is like a sign from the universe. This is why I do this. I do it for the laughter. I do it to make people happy. It's not about the development deals or the chicks or the money or the threesomes backstage or the free cocaine or the midgets in stormtrooper outfits serving us Kool-Aid and strippers and hookers on the slip-and slides going down the hallways. That's not why I do this. That's not. That's a small reason of why I do it. It's I don't know. It's no. Well, the reason I do it is for the laughs and to make people happy. And I finally found my purpose, and I was like, wow, this is so big. This is so important. And I had this new resurgence, and I was like, I'm going to go back, and I'm gonna give it my all. And I went back to the Glee Club the next night, and I got a standing ovation. And look, I'm not a standing ovation comic. You can tell. That doesn't happen. And they did. They got up. They were stomping their feet. They were cheering. And I was like, wow, this is it. And I even, right after that, I was like, I'm going back to New York, and I'm not giving up, and I'm going to keep pursuing this, and I'm going to keep going everywhere, all around the world, making people laugh, like even Irvine. And I'm gonna keep doing this. And so I went back to New York, and I looked that guy up. I looked him up because I wanted him to know, out of this terrible tragedy, a little bit of good happened. That I'm gonna keep doing this, that I'm gonna keep touring. And I contacted the guy, and he agreed to meet me. And so I went to a coffee shop on the Upper West Side of New York. And as I'm walking there, he sees me, and I see him, and he recognized me as I was walking up. And I see this big smile on his face. And I was like, this is the guy I'm meeting. And I walk up to him, and he points at me, and he goes, I remember you, because I remember you from the show. He goes, you're the one guy my wife didn't like. Thanks a lot, you guys. Thank you. so much. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. You really were the best crowd. You were way better than the first crowd. If you have friends in the first show, tell them they were not as good as you. And do me a favor, please take care of the waitresses and wait staff. You know, when you're a kid, you're at a party, you and your friends go out in the woods to hide from the parents and you like smoke a joint. I found what's really weird is now I'll be at a party with parents, there's kids there, and all the parents now sneak out into the woods to smoke a joint so the kids don't see them. And I'm wondering at what age that I'm out there in the woods and I'm smoking a joint and I look over and there's my son smoking a joint over there. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, son? My wife and I were at the shopping center near where we live, and there was a crazy guy in the street. And he was just screaming at the top of his lungs, like just like, ah, ah, ah. And my wife goes, that's so sad. She goes, that's so sad. What do you think happened to him? Why do you think he's like that? And I just went, third kid.